Welcome. My name is Dr. Katie Bojakowski, and I'm the Chief of Cultural and Natural Resources at Honouliuli National Historic Site and Pearl Harbor National Memorial. I'm glad you could join us today for this webinar, in which I'll talk about some of our current and upcoming projects at Honouliuli. On February 24, 2015, Honouliuli National Monument was established to preserve and protect 123 acres of the original 160-acre internment camp, where civilian internees and prisoners of war were incarcerated during World War II. It was constructed on the Eva Plain, which you can see in the map on the right-hand side. And Honouliuli is located in a deep gulch of the Honouliuli Stream, 3 miles northwest of Pearl Harbor. The unit was redesignated as Honouliuli National Historic Site in 2019. Honouliuli was the only camp in Hawaii sited and constructed with the express purpose of confining civilian internees during World War II, containing 7 compounds, which you can see in the map on the left, and situated amidst sugarcane fields. Approximately 364 civilians were interned at Honouliuli until its closure in 1946. Honouliuli also became the largest prisoner of war camp in the Hawaiian Islands, holding approximately 4,000 Japanese, Korean, Italian, Okinawan, Filipino, and Taiwanese enemy soldiers, non-combatant laborers, and conscripts in compounds directly adjacent to the civilian internees. And you can see both of those in the middle picture, where you have the tents in the barracks with internees and POWs. After Honouliuli closed in 1946, the camp was dismantled and the history went largely unnoticed for many years. And in the images on the slide, you can also see a black and white photo of the administrative headquarters for the U.S. Army, as well as compound number 7, which is in the southernmost location of the camp. Recently, we were fortunate to have a foundation document created, and part of that foundation document was to create a purpose statement, which for Honouliuli National Historic Site is to conserve and interpret the largest and longest used World War II incarceration site in the Hawaiian Islands. The National Historic Site provides opportunities for public education about World War II and invites reflection on wartime experiences and recommits us to the pursuit of freedom and justice. Through the foundation document process, we also identified major interpretive themes, the first being Honouliuli internment camp specifically. Again, there's a picture of the barracks and the tents from Honouliuli on the slide. Secondly is internment in Hawaii in general, and that's to raise public awareness of the incarceration of Japanese Americans in Hawaii during World War II. Thirdly is martial law. The United States government imposed martial law on Hawaii from December 7, 1941 to October 24, 1944. In terms of duration and the total population and land area affected, this use of martial law is unprecedented in United States history and had a lasting social impact on the Hawaiian Islands. Also is injustice. The internment camp represents one of 17 known sites in Hawaii used to unjustly incarcerate people of Japanese and other ethnicities. It serves to remind us of critical importance of safeguarding our civil liberties and maintaining our national values during times of crisis. Also, it's a portal to World War II history on the home front and abroad, as well as our cultural resources. Honouliuli National Historic Site contains archaeological sites and cultural landscape features that are unique and important to the story. They contribute to the distinctive character of the former internment camp and exhibit the many intertwined layers of history and culture that encompass hundreds of years of human occupation at Honouliuli. The study of cultural resources at Honouliuli began in 2011 to prepare for the creation of the National Register of Historic Place nomination in 2012. A series of archaeological studies were conducted by contractors and University of Hawaii professors and students. We are currently conducting an archaeological review and assessment to combine this information from previous work and create a research agenda moving forward. In particular, the overview and assessment will look at periods beyond the camp era and include potential Native Hawaiian use of the area. To prepare for the eventual opening of the site, An archaeological inventory of roads and trails helped us relocate and identify historic trails, roads, and paths. This data will lead into a road condition survey and determine potential access points into the gulch. The identifying feature of the roads was a layer of crushed coral used by the military at Honouliuli. You can see this white layer in the bottom picture of the slide, as well as in the black and white photo above, which is a historic photo in which the crushed coral pops out as bright white lines. And to the left of that is a map of the roads and trails as they exist today. A key concern today is the scope of threats facing several significant cultural resources. Heavy vegetation overgrowth, erosion, sedimentation, and other factors have led to spalling of cement and historic features, destabilization of structural elements, and general deterioration of many archaeological features. We are working to stabilize and rehabilitate historic structures and cultural resources at Honouliuli. Pictured here is a historic retaining wall built before the camp era. The wall is beginning to bulge and split due to the pressure of the sloping hill behind it. In 2021, the NPS Historic Preservation Training Center will come to Hawaii and rehabilitate the retaining wall. Until then, we are tracking changes to the wall and finding mitigations against structural failure. In the bottom left picture, you can see that each rock on the wall has been labeled. This will allow us to reassemble in case the wall were to fail in any part. While it would be really unfortunate if that were to occur, the potential collapse will not damage the rocks and it will be able to be fully repaired. We've also installed crack monitors, which you can see in the top right picture. This, along with an inclinometer, will allow us to quantify these changes. The bottom right picture is yellow due to the fact that it's LiDAR data. We are scanning the wall at intermittent frequencies to create 3D images and models of the wall. This will provide us with data on structural changes, create an administrative record, and facilitate the reconstruction of the wall during repair. And we will also be rehabilitating a historic aqueduct that runs across the main part of the site. And this was also the physical barrier that separated the internees and the POWs that you saw in pictures previously. As you can see on the top left picture, some non-structural pillars have partially collapsed. This project will repair those non-structural elements and ensure the concrete aqueduct is in good condition. The top right picture is another image of LiDAR. We are collecting similar data on the aqueduct as the retaining wall. We will begin removing the modern sediment and working on design next year, and then complete the rehabilitation in 2021 and 2022. Unfortunately, the established nature of vegetation around that area makes the removal of sediment and vegetation very labor intensive. We're also excited to have a cultural landscape inventory conducted next year. Cultural landscapes look at people impacted and altered the natural environment and identifies natural features that are essentially important historic elements. And there are some very interesting elements to the cultural landscape at Honouliuli. The military drastically altered the environment from agricultural fields to a camp. You can see in the middle picture what it looked like during the camp era and then what it looks like today to the right. During the camp era, however, there was a camp garden, which is pictured on the left. There were even a few trees we believe were planted by the internees. We have a mock orange tree and a rock garden near the barracks area. This inventory will ensure these elements are identified and protected as cultural resources. We are very fortunate to have created a series of internships at the University of Hawaii system. These educational agreements fund archaeological research, which you can see pictured on the two images on the left, oral history projects, and internships that provide practical training in historic preservation, cultural anthropology, archaeology, and history. This year, our newest CSU with UH Manoa will focus on the collection and of oral histories. The students will identify and collect up to 15 new oral histories for Honouliuli. As you saw in the previous slide, Honouliuli is now largely covered in vegetation and invasive species. It is a dryland forest covered in two primary invasive species, halicoa trees and guinea grass, which was planted by the ranchers to feed cattle. You can see these two species in the picture to the far left. This year, we completed a vegetation and faunal survey to better understand the scope of species at the park and to begin to plan for eradication of the invasive species. We also needed a survey for endangered species such as the hoary bat and the poyo owl. While we did not find evidence of endangered species, we were excited to find the endemic willy willy tree, which was traditionally used by Native Hawaiians. You can see a willy willy flower in the second picture from the left. These trees grew in Honouliuli after the camp era, but will be protected. Unfortunately, we will have to find a way to protect them from the gull wasp. The last picture is an alien red-vented bulbul, which is the most common bird at Honouliuli. We will continue inventorying our natural resources next year with a vascular plant inventory. We are also looking to collaborate with the USGS on a climate change science grant. Honouliuli is at higher risk to increased brush fires, in part due to changing climate patterns, but also the large amount of invasive species. In addition to collecting baseline data for the cultural and natural resources, we're also beginning our planning process. The early planning stages is often referred to as the P3 process, and it ultimately leads to the creation of a general management plan. This study identifies how we will interpret the site, allow visitors to access the park, how many staff we will need, and if we will need to rehabilitate or even reconstruct historic structures. This is an exhaustive planning process that may take several years to complete, but is a vital first step into opening the park. During this process, we will consult with our partners, which you can see in the bottom picture, as well as stakeholders and the public. And the image on the top, again, is some of the barracks from the camp era. And we have some excellent partners. The Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii has been instrumental in educating the public and leading small tours at the site each month. In the picture on the top of the slide, you can see an educational museum exhibit in their center located in downtown Honolulu. They have some wonderful resources on their website, including a public interfacing archives funded in part by the NPS Japanese American Confinement Site Grant. The picture on the bottom is a tour being held on the Mess Hall Foundation at Honouliuli. JCCH volunteer and docents have extensive knowledge of Honouliuli and a passion for telling the camp story. JCCH also organizes annual blessing and bond ceremonies at Honouliuli, which you can see pictured in the slide here. It's a beautiful ceremony, and we're proud to be able to take part in it as well. In addition to our partners, we also have an incredible group of volunteers who participate in the Volunteer in the Parks program. Volunteers help us with vegetation maintenance and removing soil. This is extremely hard work in the heat and hot sun. Honouliuli was called Hell Gulch by the internees as the winds were blocked and there was very little shade. Even though we have more shade with our invasive trees, it's physical work. And we're so thankful that people are still willing to brave the conditions and help us maintain this important site. We have active duty military groups, veteran groups, students who have participated in the archaeology previously, Boy Scouts, and the public. The picture on the top is a group of Boy Scouts. They helped clear part of the aqueduct as an Eagle Scout project, and below is some of our archaeology students who came back to help us clear some of the guinea grass. Looking forward, we still have a lot of work ahead of us. There's a vital need for more research and baseline documentation. We also need to conduct more historic research on the internees, the prisoner of wars, and the military personnel stationed there, and continue to collect oral histories. We're also undertaking directed research and engaging with local stakeholders and community members to better understand the scope and types of information available. We also want to identify research gaps and network with international agencies and proactively work together and develop knowledge on all facets of Honouliuli's history. We don't know when Honouliuli will be open to the public, but we're trying to find ways to tell Honouliuli's story and that of other sites throughout Hawaii. I thank you for your time today and hope you learned more about Honouliuli. Thank you very much.